Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite tanking team. That tank is on, baby, right here in the Bay Area. And today we're talking about the Sharks 6-2 beatdown by the Nashville Predators with a very special guest who has almost come to the point of bribing me to be on the show. It's actually gotten a little creepy. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin, RIP, in San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked on Sharks your first listen. We cover your team every day. With me, the man, the myth, the legend, godfather to Preds analytics. You just, whatever you do, you do a lot of stuff. From on the Forecheck, RIP as well. Maybe I don't know what you guys are doing over there. And then Renegade to Puck, Bryan Bastin. Bryan, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, and I do want to say I missed what you said there in the intro, but I was just wanting to tell everybody about the DMs I got from you yesterday. I mean, just begging and pleading for me to come on the show. Well, and I've been very public about my stance to never be on your show.
Well, I wanted to get you on this finally. Do you think Craig Smith would be a good fit for the Sharks now that he's been signed by the Bruins for a couple of years?
Yeah, I guess I should have known that Laviolette would go get him. Sorry about that. He's good. He's a good guy. I like it. But yeah, that's what you get for preparing. That's why I tell people all the time, like, I don't try to do research too far ahead because everything changes, and that's just my excuse. It's not me being lazy.
It's not the procrastinator. I am 1,000% a procrastinator as well. So you don't want to do a bunch of work that you never actually need. So
yeah, exactly.
You know who didn't do any work tonight? The San Jose Sharks. That was I mean, they made it look very easy for the Nashville Predators. I think that's where we have to start, right? Nashville's not like a great team. They're kind of a fringe, maybe if they kind of get hot here down the stretch, they might make a playoff push here, but they're kind of losing pieces, due to injury, all that fun stuff. But the Sharks made it look super easy for Nashville today, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I didn't think it was really that big of a difference in the first two periods. Nashville should be where they're at. You know, they're 4 games behind 4 points behind Calgary with 3 games in hand. I mean, there's a chance that they could do it, and they're definitely not out of the race. But they've got Minnesota coming up right behind them. Colorado will become Colorado again. The feeling is that this team is just not good enough to make the playoffs, and all they're doing is that would just hurt their chances if they actually made it this season, because this isn't a team that's going to beat anybody in a 7-game series or a 5-game series, even for that matter. They're
just going to do what they do, right? They're going to get to the first round of playoffs and get smashed. That's what they do.
They just push that rebound, kick it down the road another year. What's wrong with doing it for 4 years in a row? But I mean, they come in without Forsberg. They don't have Alex Carrier. They lose Juuso Parssinen, who was having a great game. But they've been one of the healthier teams in the entire league. Ryan Johansson as well is going to be out for 12 weeks. So I mean, it was ripe for San Jose to come in and pick them apart. I mean, there's 5 guys on the roster that have played a good amount of games in Milwaukee this season, and they broke it apart in the third period. I'm not sure if it was just a matter of, because it really didn't feel like Nashville outplayed them. I mean, is that what you think?
No, I mean, you look at, like the expected goals for at 5-on-5, it's 1.69 to 1.78 in favor of Nashville. And even like the second period, the Sharks 1.13 expected goals for, like you kind of felt like the Sharks were climbing back into this game. But the special teams, which has kind of been the Sharks' strength all season, was brutal tonight. They gave up 2 power play goals, and each team did give up a shorthanded, but like that's just it felt like the Sharks were really frustrated, and like you could see it, especially on like Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson just did not look comfortable tonight. Was chirping at the refs. Just kind of looked pissed off tonight. Sometimes you see that happen, and he like takes it to another level. And tonight he just could not find that level. And the Sharks season has basically been Timo Meier and Erik Karlsson. No Timo Meier tonight as he's dealing with the upper body injury, quote unquote. I think he's hurt. I think he's a little hurt, but I think they're also protecting asset right now too.
I believe so.
And yes, right. And then Erik Karlsson just wasn't kind of feeling it tonight and looked a little off, and that was kind of it. I mean, as soon as the Preds got up like 3-1, I was like, this game's over. There's no way the Sharks were scoring 3 goals. And Reimer didn't look comfortable tonight. And yeah, that was
really funny because when Nashville took that 3-1 lead, I'm like, they are absolutely blowing this game. I know it's funny, but I think it's 100% serious. It's just, this is a team that has fallen apart. As y'all saw tonight, they're really bad at letting allowing goals in the first few minutes of a period. But it was very odd to see it because, this is, San Jose and Nashville. I mean, I remember the playoff series. You look at, Roman Josi had just an incredible, historic, season for a defenseman last season. And Karlsson's probably about to surpass that here, in a month or so. But we'll talk about Josi and Karlsson here in a second. But it's kind of sad watching it. It's kind of a shell of what it used to be. I mean, these aren't original 6 teams. These are the furthest thing from it. But it was a fun rivalry. I remember the game that lasted for, God, how long was that in the playoffs? Was it 7? How many overtimes was it?
There was
7, right?
There was multiple overtime game. Yeah.
Multiple overtime games.
Multiple overtime game. Yes.
Thank God not tonight though.
No more loser points. I'm tired of loser points for the Sharks. I mean, this was kind of like a nice little rivalry between, kind of short-lived rivalry, but nice, playoff rivalry between 2 teams, and both got, crushed by the Penguins and Stanley Cup because that's what happens. And it's just that's just the way the Sharks are right now. And, I think Nashville is going to be an interesting situation here, especially as they're kind of like where the Sharks were a couple of years, where it's like, we still got some pieces. We think we got a core that we can kind of, maybe try to retool around on the fly. At least you got good goaltending. The Sharks never didn't have good goaltending, but you feel like, okay, we flip a guy here, flip a guy there, try to, get some lucky with the draft, and then maybe we're right back in this. But, I think they were talking, at least on the Sharks broadcast, of how many guys had career years last year for the Preds. And then this year, it's like they're just, again, that's why they call them career years, and just unable to follow up with it. We'll talk about Josi here in a second, but almost had 100 points last year. And, how many points does Josi have this year?
He's like 30 or 40, in the 40s, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, he's doing all right, but
he's doing all right. But
by Josi standards.
Yeah. When you go from nearly scoring 100 points to 40 and we're, 60 games into the season. That's a lot of production that you're losing. So, before we get into the Karlsson Roman Josi talk, do want to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, great time to get into the action in the NBA. Playoff races are starting to heat up here. And FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, makes it easy, especially for new customers, when you get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 as bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to points scored to threes drained. I really like the 2x3. Get 2 3-pointers in the first 3 minutes of a game, and you win. Super easy, right away. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a bigger chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. All right, so Mr. Josi versus Mr. Karlsson, 2 of the most handsome men in the NHL. So, Roman Josi definitely was the winner tonight. I mean, you tweeted, how Josi was doing all these fancy stats and all that fun stuff tonight. And again, I think Karlsson just didn't look right tonight. You could just tell he was frustrated and just kind of was just off a little bit tonight. Wasn't the Karlsson that we've seen this year. So you're still taking Josi over Karlsson right now?
I mean, not for this season, no. I mean, and you know me, and I think one of the reasons why we've been buddies for so long is that I've always been a big Karlsson fan, and
that's the first question I ask any person I meet is
exactly
what's your opinion of Erik Karlsson? Yeah, so
yeah.
Nobody at work will talk to me for some reason.
Yeah, I can understand that. But he's just having a really incredible year. So like Josi's at 50 points, which again, not bad. I mean, it's still a little bit under his point per game pace last year, but Karlsson's been fantastic. If we're talking about judging over the course of this season, I don't think that's I'm not sure that Josi finishes as a finalist. And that may be even generous thinking that I'm saying maybe, but he's had a great year. He's still that guy. It's just a lot of things came together for him last year. But Karlsson's been really great, and I'm pulling for him to win the Norris. Hopefully,
that's all it's that and Bedard. Those are the two things I have right
no,
now.
that's all. Just the little things that you're asking for. You're not asking for too much. Yeah, but I say that I want to come in and be like, yes, I love Erik Karlsson. But the matchup between him and my boy Roman, because we're homies, I call him Roman. So they shared the ice for 8 minutes nearly 8 minutes at 5-on-5. Shot attempts 11-4 for Nashville with both of them on the ice. 5 shots on goal for Josi while he was on, and none for Karlsson. And at the end, it was 0.6 expected goals to 0. The Sharks produced nothing when Karlsson was on the ice with Josi. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen a guy like that get kind of shut down that completely. Usually it's like, oh, maybe they only had 2 shots, but one of them was a goal, but something like that. But no, it was just a complete shutdown. And I mean, Josi I think he was positive in expected goal share for against everybody on the Sharks except for like 4 players. I think it's just ridiculous. I mean, he does that sometimes. He's a little more mistake prone sometimes, but he just has these games and he looks inhuman. Yeah,
and I mean, going to like the inhuman thing, that's where Karlsson, right? His thing is, we know Karlsson's not going to be playing shutdown defense anytime, but you don't pay him $11.5 million to play shutdown defense. You pay him to go be cool and score awesome goals and make sweet ass passes. But it's just been, tonight, like I said, I think without Timo Meier there, I know the Sharks scored 4 goals against the Kraken, but asterisk, they played against Martin Jones in San Jose. Martin Jones in San Jose, we've seen that for many years. I don't know. I think he needs like a sage or like something next time he comes to San Jose to like clear the air. But you see without Timo Meier, and Hertl hasn't really kind of been the same since the beginning of the year. And I know Hertl, he's probably dealing with stuff right now. His wife just had a baby. Congratulations to Hertl. But, I mean, he's probably dealing with some off ice stuff right now. And, like that happens with players. Like you sometimes work stuff, like personal life creeps into work, and work creeps into personal life type of thing too. But, I think you're starting to see, right, as pieces are getting pulled, Sharks, no Timo Meier, like we just starting to kind of see, we had fun, at least fun tank for the first, 2/3 of the season. And now it's starting to get to the nitty gritty, ugly part of the tank.
That's how you got to show that you want it, is that you got to stick through the tanking at the end of the year. It's fun at the beginning because you're like, there's 50 games left. No, you got to really engage it.
That's why you lift all them weights, right? The old Bill Parcells-ism, yes. This is why we lift all these weights. This is why we, you lose all those games in overtime and stuff like that. You're starting to get to the nitty gritty here. You see the light at the end of the tunnel here, but I kind of want to talk about Nashville a little bit more, because I mean, we saw them the very first 2 games of the season, and it's been a long, it's been a very long season. Is Nino Niederreiter only good against San Jose? Like how? Because he came out oh, this signing is going to be amazing for Nashville, and then he's got 18 goals this year, but most 30% of them come against the Sharks. Like,
yeah, I mean, so actually, I'm gonna say that it's been he's actually been about as good as a lot of people thought and hoped he would be. And now you said 18 goals and you're like, yeah, that's crazy. You know, that's not very much. That's second on the team behind Forsberg with 19. You know, it's not great, but he's been pretty consistent. He's been one of those guys that I don't know that I can sit and think and like immediately recall like more than like 2 actually bad games for Nino. He's had a like revolving door of line mates on the second line. But he's just been very consistent. I've really been happy about him. I mean, I think he's 4th on the team in goals above replacement. You know, he's been doing better than Matt Duchene, you know, right now, which Matt Duchene's kind of bouncing back, but I've been pretty happy with him. And again, he personally helped hand deliver, you know, 3 wins. They outscored him like 13-5 in those 3 games, which that's not the Nashville I'm used to seeing. It kind of still boggles my mind because I double checked those numbers just now because I was like, there's no way Nashville had scored 13 goals in 3 games. That's impossible. But you know, again, it helps when you've got a guy like Saros and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I've been a real big fan of him. I think he's been the most consistent. He's not streaky at all, and he's one of the things that went right this year.
And then what's the deal? So you have like, it seems like they're, at least from management, where there's a couple players where they're like, they don't know what to do with certain players. Like they're holding them back in the AHL. And Sharks fans, like we're calling for Ekla, we're calling for Bordelot, and we know Mike Greer and Quinn, they want to be super, super, super patient. And their terminology is overripe. They want these players to be overripe. But at some point you have to like see what you got, right? You have to let them, like, you know, they're a peacock. You got to let them fly.
Right.
How's that been for you as a Predators fan?
I feel like that was a really good summary of it. I think it doesn't capture quite all the, let's see, how do I want to put it, passion, I think, for the from the team. But yeah, it's been mind-boggling a little bit. So Phil Tomasino, 2 points, 2 assists tonight, 2 beautiful assists tonight. That he is playing in just his 6th game this season for the Nashville Predators. He played 76 last season, and he went and tore it up in the AHL. And not quite sure, nobody knows quite sure why he went down and why he went down for so long. But, you know, there were guys above him that were just being awful. Cole Smith, you know, among others, that were just not doing great, and they let him stay down there 6 games. I mean, and that's a little ridiculous. They started the year off right after the first 2 games by waiving Connor Ingram, who's now rounding really nicely into form in Arizona. And then, of course, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the debacle, the whatever you want to call it, the situation with Eeli Tolvanen. So
many Sharks fans are mad that the Sharks did not make a claim on him, and that I still can't believe he got all the way to the Kraken. I will start with the good stuff, the things that, you know. So they won from somebody who knows. They were very convinced in the front office that he was gonna go past clear waivers. Which is interesting. Like AC got picked up on waivers. I mean, like, and he's playing second line minutes for the Sharks right now.
I know, and it is, you know, but you know, like 22 teams passed him. I'm like, yeah, sure, but you know, and he hadn't had a good year before he left Nashville. So you know, give him credit on that for that. But I mean, he's this guy. He was the first round pick Nashville got because they were in the Cup final. He was the guy that slipped miraculously because of the whole situation with him, you know, trying to get in to go play at BC. You know, everybody said he's Ovechkin. That's all he is. He's just Finnish Ovechkin. You know, he's not going to amount to anything but a shot. And then, you know, after his first couple of years, Hines came in and he said, you know, Tolvanen's not going to always be just that shot guy in the power play. We're going to make sure he works on his 200-foot game, because he really wasn't that great, you know, both ways. All last season, didn't score a ton, but I mean, completely turned his game around. I mean, he is a strong 2-way player. He hits guys a lot for being kind of a skinny, lanky, teenager-looking kid. But and he did everything they asked for. And then they cut him. They scratched him handful of times, and then just let him go. And now you look at him and you see what he's doing in Seattle. And honestly, it's ridiculous, because it's like, oh, there's that guy that we told you he was. Like there it is. Maybe the problem isn't him, and maybe it's, you know, the calls coming from inside the house. I mean, you look at guys like Ryan Hartman, Kevin Fiala, Victor Arvidsson. I mean, it goes on and on and on. These guys who were like, they were struggling in Nashville too, and at the time weren't bad moves, just because it didn't seem like they were going to break through. And then they leave and
pan out.
Yes, Matt Benning, look at him now, Matt Benning of all people. It's just something that you have to look at it and say, I always blamed Laviolette, and a lot of it was Laviolette. I think last season wouldn't have happened under Laviolette, but it might be the whole, instead of, when you have somebody who gets sick or like, like in zombie movies, the way to keep it from spreading, you got to just burn it all down.
It might be. I mean, Nashville, the GM's been there. He's the longest tenured GM in the league, right? I think, right?
The only GM for Nashville.
Yeah, it was because it was him and Doug Wilson. I think were like the back to back. So yeah, you wonder if it might be time for Nashville to look at hard in the mirror and decide, where's this franchise going type of situation. But I think there's a lot of parallels between the Sharks and Nashville, and kind of like some of the long-term contracts they've handed out, some of the big money guys, maybe trying to hold on to this core for a little, 1 or 2 seasons too long, type of, talk yourself into it type of situation. So before we get out of here, though, I do have to ask, there's been a little bit of rumors, whisperings, I don't know what you want to call it, about one Dante Fabbro, a defenseman for Nashville who used to play under David Quinn at Boston University. And I think it was on 32 Thoughts or one, something like that. But they about a potential connection for him. What's the deal, bro?
Yeah, so I mean, Dante Fabbro is a guy that Nashville is really. He's a guy, and he's a guy that they the biggest, most luxurious eyebrows I've ever seen. And the other players love it too. They talk to us about him all the time. 17th overall pick in 2016. It took him a while to kind of get to Nashville. He decided to stay at Bastin. And so he's come in. He's got now, I think, 226 games. Actually, it's a lot more than I thought, actually. 12 goals, 56 points. He's had some, he's struggled a bit kind of in his development, but, they put him in because they had high expectations for him. He got a lot of time with Mattias Ekholm. He got a lot of time with Roman Josi. And I think a lot of Predators fans kind of forget the first few years of a lot of these guys, career in Nashville for with their pedigree of defensemen. Roman Josi took a little bit of time, not much. Ryan Ellis, Mattias Ekholm took a little bit longer even to become a complete defenseman. He's a little bit mistake prone, but overall very strong defensively. In fact, I think he and Ekholm are by far the best defensive, players on the entire team, and like up in the top 20, I think, for even strength defense in the league. So, I mean, that's great. He's not producing much offense, but he's playing with he was playing with Roman Josi for a while. So you're not going to do that. And that's what they need him for.
Yeah. Your job is to give the puck to Roman Josi when you're in the offensive zone there.
Yeah, it's that's exactly right. And so, I mean, you look at it and you're like, okay, so, you want to say that you could say you're a little disappointed or he's not, but I think that a lot of it's comparative. When you play with Josi, you play with Ekholm, he's had some really visible mistakes, but it's not a bad goal for y'all. I mean, this is his last year. He's an
RFA. He's on the last year of his deal at $2.4 million. And the Sharks, maybe it's one of those here's his 4th round pick or 5th round pick type of thing, especially if he seems to have soured on, if the organization soured on him and stuff. And, much like the Sharks for a while Nashville's got a lot of money tied up in its blue line as well. I mean, and he's right-handed, which the Sharks have literally 2 right-handed defensemen. So yeah.
I mean, I like him a lot. I think he's got time, but he's been real patient. But I mean, his last contract negotiation, he was RFA as well, and they went to arbitration, and it took a little bit of time. I think he was the one where, for whatever reason, they waited 2 days to announce it. It was past the end of the period, but so that could be an indication of maybe the arbitration. He didn't think he was going to get enough, and they argued. And because that's coming up again, they may not want to have to go through that process because you can't really plan. I think he might earn probably I think he'd probably still do all right, but he's sitting at like 2.3 million. So I mean, I think that would be a good trade for San Jose. I think Nashville would hope to get more than a 4th or 5th for him.
You want Luke Cunnin back?
I made a promise to myself, because I have a bad habit on podcasts this season of referring back to Luke Cunnin and kind of just ragging on him. And I don't really mean to.
Oh, no, I
tried not to.
No, it's fine. I brought it up. So no,
it's awesome.
Luke Cunnin seems like a super nice dude. He does great stuff with kids with diabetes and stuff like that. Super nice dude. Not worth a 3rd round draft pick.
I mean, he was an 82 game player last season. I mean, that's value that you can't just find anywhere.
Yeah, a guy that you clearly, yes. I hope his knee recovery goes well, but I mean, like, look, you found Mikey Acemont on the streets, and I think Acemont's been a better player than Luke Cunnin has this season, and you literally found him on the streets, and you're paying him You're paying him as little as you possibly can, and he's been a better player than Luke Cunnin. So
maybe I was gonna say, speaking of that, maybe they will get Fabbro for a 5th round, because they're just gonna be like, hey, we did you a solid.
We did you a solid.
We did you a really big solid. But yeah, I was like, how many former Predators do you guys have now? Bonino.
We got Cunnin.
Benning.
Yeah. It's between that and did Sturm? No, Sturm was Wild.
Wild,
Sturm?
yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. The Wild, yeah.
He's been good though. I've really liked
Nico Sturm. I put that on Twitter. I think he was the Sharks' best free agent signing. It's between him and Matt Benning, but I think Sturm, the offense.
Definitely.
Offense, Matt Benning, scoring 12 goals. If you had told me this season that Nico Sturm had scored 12 goals, I would have called you a liar. So especially on a team that's still like the 4th worst team in the NHL right now. It's crazy, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the good thing though is I don't want to sit there and tell you that I'm hoping the Sharks lose, but I'm for your sake.
Oh, you could tell me the Sharks.
Okay, I absolutely am, because I would very much enjoy, sitting here in Nashville, like right next, with you right there, while you're crying, just in full tears, with face painted, as they come up there to draft him. I think that would be a good ending. Considering that I met you because I came up into your house to cover and write a couple articles for Fear the Fin. Come full circle.
Yeah. The worst would be the Sharks get the 1st pick and then they pass on Connor Bedard. I just walk until I hit an ocean.
Just take the first goaltender you can find with the first pick.
Walk until I hit the. Well, because the thing is like, we know Mike Greer loves Swedes because he drafted 2 in the first 2 picks, and he loves college guys because he drafted like 1,000 college guys last year. So at least you're getting Fantilli or Karlsson if those are the qualifications. So
yeah, and he's coming to learn from the master. Like to say, they for a while they called us 10 of Sweden because we had so many Swedish players. I mean, it's a good formula to be mediocre. Just not the Swedes particularly, but just Poyle and
Swedes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And college guys. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So, Bryan, you said it all except for if you think Craig Smith would be a good fit.
I will say this though. I do have to make a little formal announcement right here that I'm formally, I'm not going to call you a coward anymore. You have overcome it. You had me on the podcast. To be clear, he's tried to have me on a couple times and things fell through. But he's not a coward anymore. I'll give you a little bit of respect, but obviously you guys are doing a great job. It sucks we're both losing our websites, but there's more coming down the road. I think we're not dead yet either. And thanks for having me on. It's been so much fun. I don't tell anybody, but I listen to you guys all the time. So
that's you. All the lights are off. You got one candle lit.
Mm-hmm. Glass of wine sitting in the tub.
Wine. Yes. I hope you. Especially the Straussman interview. That's a good one to listen to. The glass of wine. All that fun stuff. Also tomorrow, a really fun. I have Marcus White on. All we do is talk about Patrick Marleau with Patrick Marleau's jersey retirement on Saturday. So I didn't want to have Kyle on because Kyle just calls Patrick Marleau a compiler, and I wanted to actually have somebody who enjoys Patrick Marleau. So Marcus White, the shiny beacon to us blog boys, as former Fear the Fin guys. So he's on. We talk about we spend 25 minutes just talking about Patrick Marleau. So make sure you guys check that out. Bryan, thank you so much. Where can the people find you?
Oh yeah, so on the Forecheck and Renegades of Puck, which you can see their stuff on YouTube and on podcast platforms. We just we've done a whole bunch. We've got a big event coming up next month. But also you can find me on the Chase Thomas podcast on Saturdays. We record on Fridays for the Preds Power Hour. Last week we had former wrestler Eric Young, who's a big hockey fan. He came on and we talked, and that was an awesome interview. And then tomorrow afternoon, Chase and Jeff, another writer at OTF, and I are going to be talking to Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. So, and he's the one. He said quite a few things about Nashville in the last the podcast with him and Jeff Merrick. And so I'm very excited to see what comes out of that one, because we'll get some of that insider view, and I don't know, it'll be really great. So make sure you guys check that out. Renegades Pucks does videos for recaps after every Nashville game, so check those out too. And thanks for having me on once again.
Of course, you can find me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Listen, the show, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Listen wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. Watch on YouTube as well if you haven't. Click the subscribe, especially trade deadline. There'll be plenty of content trade deadline, especially as the Sharks are probably going to be one of the busiest teams. And then we'll do a live show to recap and cry about losing Timo Meier. So until then, Brian's a coward.